You're watching the whole My Brunch podcast, hosted all the way from Sri Lanka. I am Shavi, and I love talking about many things, starting from the life hustle to the biggest insecurities that all of us have. Do you need that Sunday morning coffee or tea with a strong brew? Then this is the right place for you. Stay tuned. Good day to all of you and good evening to all of you who had a great first day of summer. This Sunday for the Indian Standard Time will be quite exciting because it's time for another solar eclipse observance. The total annular solar eclipse will begin at 10 a.m. The peak of the solar eclipse will be reaching around 11:37 a.m. and it will end at 1:27 p.m. The times provided follow Indian Standard Time, and obviously I'm sorry for everyone on the other side of the world because night is blocking the ring of fire for you guys. Welcome back to another episode of Hold My Brunch. Today we are off to talk about emotional intelligence. Since our childhood, our lives have always been revolving around the cognitive intelligence. In short, we also call this as IQ. According to the American Psychological Association, also known as APA, IQ is defined as one's ability to learn, remember, reason, solve problems, and make sound judgments. IQ is a vital proportion in universally declared and signified education systems. This portion is majorly highlighted in Asian education systems because the students are heavily encouraged to continue arithmetical and logical school of thought into their lives instead of exploring the spontaneous and emotional aspects of education. Because of such mechanizations, most of our lives have turned into several robotic episodes. We get stressed and we have no idea what to do with our lives, although we have all other worldly essentials to survive the commercialized world out there. As a result, people would internally devastate, contemplating on a single side of the coin, which is my analogy to life. Now, this is where EQ, also known as emotional intelligence, comes into play. Today on the episode, I'll be talking to Insiya Haveliwala, a special education teacher pursuing her master's on child and adolescent psychology to delve more into the EQ and basics. She is also a 6 Seconds Network Certified EQ Practitioner and Assessor. 6 Seconds Network is an American nonprofit based in California, which is a dedicated center to spread awareness of emotional intelligence. The network comprises of officers and representatives in 25 countries and members in 167 countries. For more information, please access the website www.6seconds.org. Alright, here is an initial excerpt from our conversation, and let's begin with our question. What is EQ?
Yeah, so before I explain what EQ is, I want to first talk about what emotions are. So emotions are data, right? As I mentioned to you as well in the beginning, I didn't record it. So they provide us with information, and it's basically a signal or a message from the brain telling us something, okay? So emotions are, at the end of the day, they're energy, and they drive us to act or behave a certain way. So when we look at it evolutionary speaking, emotions are what helped us with survival as well. You know, the fight, flight, or freeze response, that's all thanks to our emotions.
Yeah.
So, and So when we see like, a saber-toothed tiger, what would someone do? The emotions would signal that, okay, there's danger. So do I fight? Do I fight, flight, or free? Yeah, do I flee or do I freeze? Okay.
Right.
And also when it comes to like, we're all students here right now, and some of us are working. So when it comes to like our education, our work, when we feel motivated, only do we then engage in our work or in our studies. However, if we're disinterested at the end of the day, we probably won't work hard. So emotions are what drive us as well. And once we're driven by our emotions, then only we perform. So that's what emotions are. So in simple terms, EQ is just being smart with our feelings. And it was first coined by Mayer and Salovey around in the 1990s. And I don't know the whole exact story, but there was a president in the US and he was really smart, like IQ smart. But he made a downright stupid decision that kind of like screwed over like something that I don't know the whole exact story and I don't remember it. But he made a stupid decision and they both were wondering, how can someone who's so smart make such a downright stupid decision? And that's when they realized that emotional intelligence is also another form of intelligence. It's not only IQ smart. And Daniel Goleman also wrote a book. It's called EQ and Why It Matters More Than IQ. And he also discussed how there was once a student who got a bad grade on an exam. And he was really, really smart. He had like all A's. And then when he saw this bad grade, he thought to himself like, oh my God, how am I supposed to get into university now with this bad grade? And he went to confront the teacher and he ended up stabbing the teacher because he was so angry, and it just basically skipped his prefrontal cortex. So there was a signal from his thalamus and it skipped the prefrontal cortex. It went straight to the amygdala and he just reacted out of anger. So when you use EQ, you basically stop to reflect and then make a decision. So like that if he had EQ, he would have known that I'm angry. But he would have thought to himself, what can I do about it? Can I speak to my teacher about doing some extra credit? Or is there any way that I can make up this exam because I didn't understand this material? He would have stopped and he would have communicated with his teacher if he had EQ. So it allows us to connect with people, and it allows us to be emotional scientists and study ourselves. And only then will we be able to empathize and understand others. So that's the best part of having emotional intelligence, and that's why it's so much more important. Like I wouldn't say so much more important, but it's equally as important as IQ.
Yeah, I mean that basically answers the second question. Like, and the third one. Now I remember I was talking about being softer, but then you said EQ is not about being softer. So it comes to the third question, which is breaking the stereotype about emotions. Like, how does EQ help humans in solving day-to-day problems?
Yeah, because like I mentioned before, the amygdala hijack, where that story I shared with you about that boy who stabbed his teacher, he didn't stop to reflect. But when you know yourself and you know that you're able to identify and say, I'm feeling angry right now, and then reflect on why I'm feeling angry and reflect on the pattern. So when I'm feeling angry, do I react out of impulse or do I stop and reflect? That's how it helps us in our day-to-day problems, because you don't just act on autopilot, as 6 Seconds puts it. You reflect and you think, okay, I'm feeling angry. What choices do I have? What can I do to make a better decision? And then you giving yourself, as 6 Seconds puts it, the KCG model: know yourself, choose yourself, and give yourself. Give yourself is you're being able to, make decisions based on your purpose and your values, and live with integrity. So all the choices you make is based on that. So even in solving day-to-day problems, EQ definitely helps humans, because I think the most important thing is being able to reflect on your decisions.
Next, I wanted to assess how my brain works with this anti-emotional intelligence fact. So, I took this SEI emotional intelligence assessment, and here is what I got. There are 3 parts in this profile, namely focus, decisions, and drive. Focus essentially highlights how your brain collects the surrounding data. Do you perceive data in a rational way or in an emotional way? Do you prefer data that is analytical or emotional? According to these results, I'm pretty much of a shrewd personality, which is, I believe, obviously, and I am more inclined towards the rational, analytical side. Decisions involve on the binaries of tending to protect or innovate. Does my brain like to find alternatives based on the collected data or scrutinize the collected data on a single pathway? Turned out that I'm a person of scrutiny, so my results pertaining were more inclined towards innovation. Drive is the fuel, technically driving your brain towards instant pragmatic actions or planning for long-term situations. Also, according to these results, I am more motivated by the practical than the idealistic. Further, my strengths and weaknesses were identified through this brain profile. My strengths basically comprised of commitment, imagination, and proactivity. As a resultant of these strengths, my health came as an outcome. And on top of that, my weaknesses, they comprised of the emotional insight, connection, and data mining. As a resultant of these weaknesses, my balance came as an outcome, which referred to the capacity to prioritize managing stress and to be fully present in that moment. So, as I was interpreting my results, you would have come across the word data mining. Data mining is a very popular term in computer science, but in psychology, it has a different definition.
What's data mining?
Okay, so it basically means to know what's important to you. You notice clues, see patterns within the context, filter out things that are not necessary, and just stick to what is necessary.
Alright, I am excited to provide in some excerpts into today's episode on my consultation I had with Insiya and her constructive evaluation on improving my EQ based on the results provided by the brain profile. In the first excerpt, I'm talking about how I honestly feel about opportunists who are essentially there in my life to get what they want from me and then leave. I'm pretty much in a therapy mode in these consultation excerpts, and apologies in advance with that therapy mood tone in my voice. And here you go.
That's not my first time. I have been doing this for for the past 25 years of my life, and I kind of get to most of these things turn into disasters. Although I have previous experience with that, I feel oh my god, what if I were in his or her situation? I always put myself into that situation, and I kind of compare myself, and I'm oh my god, I must have been super helpless, so I must help this guy, and that's what comes to my head. But the problem is these people don't understand that. And I feel oh, that is sad. But then, let's say that, I told you that it's just one of those incidents which happened to me. Even though I tend to face things like that, I would love to help people out. I just don't care for it. But then I feel I need to build that threshold of going to that point of helping and not helping. And I kind of find it pretty difficult to find that threshold and establishing it.
So what I heard is that, it's hurtful when people do that to you, for sure. It definitely hurts.
Yeah.
And it seems like you do continue to help them because you empathize with them, and you also value helping others, and like kind of giving to people. Like that's something that holds a lot of value to you. So where can you, now your question is, where can you distinguish the right people to help versus the wrong people to help? Like who's worth helping at the end of the day? Is that something that you're wondering?
Exactly. Now that is where I kind of get misled, because like people come in many forms, right? Like they come as super saints, super saviors, but then at the end of the day they turn into like Satan like out of nowhere. And that is something I need to actually get myself, but like it's kind of like difficult to me to determine like how people are coming to me and like their personality. Like whenever I see a person talking happily and being very contented, like all that, and being positive, I feel like, okay, so he's a good guy to go with, she's a good girl to go with. But then it's too late when I realize that.
In the second excerpt, Insiya psychologically explains on how to detect such opportunist or double-faced personalities. I think this is going to be important for you guys as well. Let's have a listen.
Like everything else.
It seems to me that you've discovered a lot, and you discussed a lot with me about these things as well. And it's, for you to like kind of develop that emotional insight and connection and things like that, you can also there's something called a heart talk, where people are always sending emotional signals through their body language and their tone of voice as well. So you can try to gauge and figure out what's underneath or behind all those words by looking at their body language and by listening to their tone of voice. So that's something that you can do and kind of like keep an eye on when you communicate with others. And you can also like reflect, like by asking them and curiously ask, like, do you feel this way, or did you mean this, and kind of get them to say and validate what you think that they're feeling by asking them those questions, by being curious. And and also it seems that you do use emotional data in certain situations, especially when it comes to like your personal relationships. It seems to me that you do use your emotional side. So in those situations, you can try to use your rational side, like we discussed as well.
In the final excerpt I took, it actually involved the final question Insiya asked me on the takeaways of this brain profile test, and this is how it went.
Okay, so now that we discussed all of these things, the last question I have for you is, before we close, what is your takeaway with all this that we discussed? Are there any action steps that you have decided to take?
I think I actually got to know who I am. I'm not even kidding. Now, when I saw this entire brain profile, it says the highest scores, like as a resultant, it says health, which is the capacity to maintain optimal physical energy and functioning. And that is true about me. But then what I lack is the balance. It has like totally mentioned in this one. Like, I don't know what a balance is. So I tend to polarize things all the time, because the experience that I had, like, they're pretty much polarized, even though I try to become this middle person. But there are things like that I actually learned about it. And also on top of that, I always had this like interior lacking of emotional insight. And I actually got it like double, triple confirmed today. So I definitely do need to work on this. I need to think about how emotions work and how they're actually acting on other people's lives, and then at the same time in my life, and also how I could build up a connection through building an emotional insight. among the people I love or I hate, anyone. Okay. On top of that, I actually got to know that I need to stop overthinking. I need to make sure that I'm pretty much all good with what I think. Like, yeah, I could definitely take precautions to something I would potentially face in the future, but it's not like I am like so much contemplated on that. Okay, so this will happen, that will happen, or something else will happen. So I'm not gonna do that. I mean, I'm trying not to do that. And I got to know about all of this like in this brain profile. And I would say not a spiritual understanding. It's kind of like a very deep internal understanding of who I am. And as an adult, how could I try working on like what kind of tips I could incorporate now, as you were asking a lot of questions from me based on this brain profile. I felt like, okay, so this is what I need to work on. So if I actually work on this, I could improve this, that is for sure. I actually found a lot of answers to a lot of puzzles which were like stuck in my head today, and I felt so relaxed after this entire questionnaire thing. Like, yeah, it was amazing. Like, it was kind of like releasing my head, like my psychology or whatever inside me, and getting that onto a paper and say, okay, so this is you, and this is what you got, and this is what you haven't got. So, and you need to work on that balance. And that message was given to me by this profile. Thanks to you, I got to know a lot of hidden things that I need to get my work done. Not hidden, but kind of like the things I need to work on.
Below the iceberg.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's way the part that you see right below the iceberg is the thing. Yeah, and like when you uproot a tree, like when you uproot a 100-year-old tree, like you find a lot of roots inside it. That's just like what I found from this brain profile. Oh my God, that's a lot of roots, right? I actually understood a lot, just like that. It was very helpful.
I'm really happy, and that was a beautiful analogy that you gave just now about the roots when you uproot a tree.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense as well. And just one more thing that I want to tell you, and
Right.
I think mindfulness is something that would really benefit you as well, because you did say that you overthink a lot, and I think that mindfulness will help you get in touch with yourself. And this is something that you can try on your own time. And what I learned also is that our body sends us a lot of signals. When something isn't right, or when someone is making us feel uncomfortable, we can feel it in our body, and we can feel in our body whether we can trust someone or not as well. So sometimes when you feel like you can't trust someone, your body tends to feel really tight. Your muscles get tense. So what you can try to do often to get in touch with your emotional self as well is do a body, mind, heart scan. So it's called a BMH scan. So you can ask yourself, what are you experiencing physically? Am I smiling right now? Am I frowning? Are my muscles tight? Are my muscles relaxed? Do I have do I have butterflies in my stomach? Or does my stomach feel like it's knotted? Or you can, and then after you think about what you feel physically, you can also kind of think about what you're doing. Am I focused? Am I distracted? Am I evaluating? Am I observing? And then finally, you can move on to what kind of feelings I have. Am I feeling calm, agitated, worried, joyful, bored, or excited, or happy, or And as you practice, you'll become more skilled in noticing your feelings as well, and you'll become more skilled in understanding and realizing whether someone is trustworthy for you, or kind of just trying to get their work done as well, because you can feel it in your body. And sometimes these small subtle feelings can kind of warn you before it turns into something like anger, which is fierce and loud, because you did mention that it does make you feel angry, and that's completely normal. Anyone would feel angry if someone does that to them. So you can try doing this as well.
Right.
Here are the final remarks done by Insiya on EQ and the possible follow-ups I would possibly take in.
Yeah, I'm really happy, and we can definitely like keep connecting, and you can update me. You can be like, hey Insia, this is what I tried today and this is how it helped me, and I would love to
Yeah,
know
for
how
sure,
it's
I'll do
helped
that.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would make me really happy as well that this benefited you, and that's the goal of 6 seconds. And what we do, we want to spread emotional intelligence, and we want other people to be aware of how important it is. And just imagine a world like filled with people practicing emotional intelligence. It would be so much better to live in. So yeah.
That is pretty much of a conversational and an informational episode today on EQ and a few parts of the consultation I had based on my brain profile assessment. Obviously, due to privacy and time-based caveats, I did not include the entire consultation audio into the episode. However, I have seriously realized that EQ is something extremely vital for all of us while running in an unstoppable world. I also highly recommend everyone to take a brain profile assessment and to get a consultation done. For your convenience, I have included the contact details of Insiya to get your brain profile curated. Please do contact her through email for more information. It is always advisable to follow a certified practitioner when it comes to a SWOT analysis of your thoughts in an emotional intelligence-based spectrum. Alrighty then. Hope you got some good awareness on what EQ is and how vital EQ is. Have an amazing week ahead with 2 thumbs up for an emotionally intelligence-powered life. For the next week's episode, we are going to talk all about what we know, what we do not know, and what we would like to know about medicine. Till then, goodbye.